and I'm going to be using my notes a copious amount of times, and although not copiously hungover. Fellow Toastmasters, and yes, Mr. Toastmaster. In my Research Your Topic speech, I decided to give a talk on fibromyalgia. Before I get into what fibromyalgia actually is, you may be wondering what qualifications I have to talk about this disease. I'm not a doctor or any type of medical professional, and I certainly could have done quick research using Google, but today I'm talking from a more personal point of view. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia 10 years ago, and if there's one thing I've learned over the years about being diagnosed with all manner of weird and wonderful issues is that the best thing I can do is research it. And that, I'm proud to say, as of Tuesday the 24th of July, I'm qualified to do that. So as a qualified information professional and a sufferer of fibromyalgia, I feel more than qualified to take on this task of educating you on what fibromyalgia is, what it's like living with it, and what the future holds. Firstly, what is fibromyalgia? Fibromyalgia, or its other commonly used name, chronic pain, is exactly that. It is basically just pain. It is a musculoskeletal condition, and your muscles are extremely sore, sometimes to the point that someone even lightly touching you is painful. The best way to explain how the pain works is through an analogy. With most people, when they injure themselves, the pain receptors open a gate and pain flows through. Eventually, when the injury is healed, their gate shuts. With fibromyalgia, your gate is always open, and quite frankly, I'm not sure I actually have a gate anymore. It is also often accompanied by fatigue, and sometimes a person can also have chronic fatigue syndrome with fibromyalgia. Other fibromyalgia symptoms and problems can include weakness, headaches, dysfunction of muscles, ligaments, and joints, impaired cognitive function, or as we like to call it, fibrofog, sleep disturbances such as insomnia and restless leg syndrome, temperature instability, hot and cold intolerance, irritable bowel syndrome, stiffness, and depression. So basically a little bit of everything. It is estimated that around 2 to 10% of the population in Australia suffers from fibromyalgia, and it is most common in women and most common in middle adulthood. However, because I am special and I have other problems such as hypermobility syndrome, I was gifted with this disease at 24. There is not always an obvious cause. Sometimes it can be physical or emotional trauma or a genetic predisposition. There is no cure. You can actually see fibromyalgia in blood tests. Certain blood tests can show an increase of inflammation, which is why my doctor gets me tested every 6 months so that we can monitor what's working and what isn't. Living with fibromyalgia means changing the way you live. For example, I used to enjoy playing the drums and going for a walk. I can't do that anymore because the repetitive motion of drumming is extremely painful to my arms and my wrists, and the length of walking can be detrimental to my lower legs and hips. You have to be prepared to schedule rest days. Sometimes you may need more rest days if you are doing a high-intensity activity. For example, I need rest days after doing the grocery shopping or spending the day with a friend. Technically, today should be a rest day because I went to the Katy Perry concert last night, but needs do as needs must. You will find medication will be your new best friend to keep my fibromyalgia so that it is livable with and I can function as a relatively normal human being. I have to take several medications, including immunosuppressants. These, of course, also come with side effects. So if anyone's going to get sick, it's going to be me, and I'm going to get sickest in my family, usually ending up in hospital. You also become very friendly with the different types of pain relief on the market, and you'll probably be privately cursing the government's new stance on codeine. Other than medication, gentle exercise, particularly in a hydrotherapy pool heated to at least 33 degrees, gentle massage and relaxation, and I am personally a huge fan of those wheat heat packs that you put in the microwave and just apply to them to the sore spot. Fabulous stuff. I recognise that thus far this has been a rather depressing talk, so in an effort to lighten things up, I have included some small benefits of fibromyalgia. Getting massages is actually a treatment and a necessity. You get the disabled parking sticker. When you really, really don't want to do something, you actually have a ready-built excuse. And please let me know if you can think of any more, because I was really reaching for those. So what does the future of fibromyalgia hold? Frankly, not many people know. What does need to happen is that people need to recognise that fibromyalgia is a debilitating disease. People that are powerful in making legislation and people in the medical industry need to realise that sometimes there is nothing else that can cure a particular pain other than medication, including codeine. I, for one, tried acupuncture to relieve my brain. I had some interesting needles in strange spots, but it didn't actually make any difference. This is mainly because everyone's body works differently. What works for one person may not work for another. So I'm issuing a call to action to everyone here today. I want you to go home and Google fibromyalgia or chronic pain. Look at sites that are actually medically vetted, like the Mayo Clinic, and educate yourself. Recognize that fibromyalgia is often an invisible disease. You can't see today, but I've got swollen joints because I was partying a little too hard last night. And so maybe you can recognize that the person that is walking a little stiffer in the morning, or who has maybe taken the day off work, might just be doing it because they're in extreme pain and they need your support. So support them. Sometimes all we need is someone to listen and a helping hand. Mr. Toastmaster.